The woman's name was Victoria. She was breathtakingly beautiful with golden hair that shone like the sun and eyes as blue as the ocean. Her innocent face made everyone trust her instantly, but deep inside, she carried a heart full of darkness. Victoria was on a secret mission. Her goal was simple: to kill any Nigerian man who dared approach her for a relationship. She didn't do it for money, and she didn't do it for fun. She had a hidden reason, something so personal and painful that she kept it locked away deep inside her heart. Victoria was clever and patient. She didn't strike randomly, she chose her targets carefully. She met the first man, Chika, in a small cafe where she sat reading a book. Chika was charming and confident. He offered to pay for her coffee, and when she smiled at him, he thought he was the luckiest man alive. That same evening, she invited him to her apartment for a drink. "Try this," she said, handing him a glass of wine. It was laced with a sleeping drug. Moments after taking a sip, Chika's body went limp. Victoria dragged him to her secret room, a soundproof basement hidden behind a bookshelf. There, under dim lights, she ended his life without hesitation. The second man, Jide, met her at a bar. She pretended to be shy and reserved, the kind of woman who needed protection. Jide was flattered and offered to walk her home. By the next morning, Jide was gone, just like Chika. She killed 2 more men, each in different places: a grocery store, a park bench. All Nigerian men who approached her, all lured into her trap. Victoria always wore a sweet smile, and no one suspected her. In the city, panic began to spread among the Nigerian community. For men had gone missing in just 2 months. They were all friends, and their wives and girlfriends grew worried. Amaka, the fiancé of one of the missing men, begged the others to go to the police. "This is not normal," she cried. "For men, all Nigerian, all gone. Something is wrong." The police took their report but had no leads. There was no pattern, no evidence, nothing to connect the missing men. Meanwhile, the remaining 6 friends, Uche, Mohammed, Sola, Keen, Toby, and Femi, began to suspect they were being hunted. They couldn't explain why, but they knew their lives were in danger. "It's not random," Uche said, pacing nervously. "Whoever is doing this knows us. They're picking us off one by one." "What should we do?" Keen asked. "We leave," Mohammed replied. "We book flights back to Nigeria and disappear. Whoever is after us won't follow us there." The group quickly made plans. Within days, they were on a plane heading home. But even in Nigeria, their fear didn't fade. They didn't know who was after them, but they all carried a heavy secret, a secret that tied them to each other and to the woman hunting them. When Victoria learned the men had fled, her determination only grew stronger. She smiled to herself as she stared at the pictures of her remaining targets on her laptop. She had everything she needed: their names, their families, their addresses. They thought they could escape her, but they were wrong. "I'm not done with you," she whispered to the photos on her screen. Victoria packed her bags and booked a flight to Nigeria. The hunt wasn't over. She was going to find every last one of them. Whatever they had done to her, she wasn't going to stop until all 6 were dead. In Nigeria, Victoria blended in like a chameleon. She wore simple clothes and spoke politely, but she was always watching, always tracking. One by one, she began to locate her targets. She watched Uche leave his house at night. Nobody suspected the beautiful American woman of being a killer. Her innocent face hid the dangerous assassin she used to be. Every night, she sat alone in her hotel room, planning her next move. What drove Victoria to such lengths? Why was she so determined to kill these men? What was the terrible secret they were hiding? The answers lay buried in Victoria's past, a past filled with pain, betrayal, and a thirst for revenge that wouldn't be satisfied until every one of the 6 men was dead. The hunt had only just begun. Victoria's mission of vengeance consumed her entirely. With 4 of the men already eliminated in America, she turned her focus to Nigeria, where the remaining 6 men lived freely, oblivious to the storm heading their way. Each step Victoria took was calculated, her heart burning with the memory of her 17-year-old sister, Emily, who had been cruelly violated and driven to end her life. The 5th victim, Muhammad. Muhammad was a wealthy businessman known for his extravagant lifestyle. Victoria found him through social media, where he often posted about his lavish parties. She attended one of his events, posing as an interested investor in his company. Gaining his trust, she convinced him to meet her privately to discuss a business proposal. At the meeting, she served him a glass of wine laced with a slow-acting poison. As they talked, Muhammad began to feel weak, struggling to breathe. Victoria calmly stood over him, watching as life drained from his eyes. Before he took his last breath, she whispered, "This is for Emily." The 6th victim, Sola. Sola was harder to track, as he had moved to a remote village and lived a quiet life. Victoria pretended to be a journalist writing a feature on successful men who had risen from humble beginnings. Sola, flattered by the attention, invited her to his home. Victoria offered him a homemade meal as part of her interview hospitality. The meal was laced with a toxic substance. Within minutes of eating, Sola clutched his stomach in agony. As he collapsed, Victoria leaned in and said, "Do you remember Emily? She was 17. She trusted you." Sola died shortly after. The 7th victim, Keen. Keen was a nightclub owner, always surrounded by people. Victoria befriended one of his bartenders and used her to gain access to Keen's inner circle. One night, after the club had closed, Victoria offered Keen a drink as they sat alone in his office. The drink was poisoned, as always. Keen, sensing something was wrong, tried to fight back, but it was too late. As he gasped for air, Victoria coldly reminded him of his crime. "You laughed while my sister cried for mercy. This is your justice." The 8th victim, Toby. Toby was a politician, shielded by security and influence. To reach him, Victoria posed as a campaign donor, offering significant financial support for his next election. She met him at a private dinner, where she slipped a deadly powder into his soup. Toby realized too late that he had been poisoned. As he fell to the ground, choking, Victoria whispered, "Your power couldn't save Emily. It won't save you either." The 9th victim, Femi. Femi, a fitness trainer, prided himself on his strength. Victoria joined his gym, pretending to be a fitness enthusiast. Over weeks, she gained his trust, even flirting with him to lower his guard. One evening, she invited him to her rented home for dinner, pretending to celebrate his birthday. Femi ate the poisoned meal, joking with Victoria until he suddenly collapsed. "You used your strength to harm a child," Victoria said, watching him die. "Now it's useless." The final target, Uche. Uche, the last of the men, was cautious after learning about the mysterious deaths of his friends. He hired bodyguards and avoided public places, but Victoria was relentless. She befriended a woman close to Uche and used her to arrange a meeting. When Uche arrived, Victoria offered him tea, which he refused, suspecting foul play. Frustrated, Victoria attacked him directly, using a knife hidden in her bag. Uche fought back, his bodyguard storming in just as Victoria stabbed him. He was rushed to the hospital, but the knife had been coated with a slow-acting poison. As Uche lay dying, he confessed to the crime. Tears streamed down his face as he admitted, "We didn't think she would take her life. We were drunk, we were stupid. I'm sorry." Victoria. The police arrested Victoria at the scene. In custody, she confessed to all the murders and detailed the horrors her sister endured. Emily was 17. She trusted them, Victoria sobbed. They drugged her, raped her, and laughed at her. When she came home, she couldn't even look at herself in the mirror. She cried every night, asking why they did this to her. A week later, I found her lifeless body in her room. She had written a note, "I can't live with this pain anymore." The officers sat in silence, many wiping tears from their eyes. They couldn't believe the evil Victoria's sister had endured or the injustice of a system that had allowed her attackers to walk free. "I did what the law couldn't," Victoria said, her voice steady despite her tears. "I gave Emily the justice she deserved." Victoria was sentenced to life in prison, but her story sparked a global conversation about sexual violence and the failure of justice systems to protect victims. Some viewed her as a murderer, others saw her as a grieving sister who had been pushed to the brink. As Victoria sat in her prison cell, she held a small photo of Emily, whispering, "I'm sorry, Emily. I couldn't save you, but I made them pay. Rest in peace, my little sister." The story of Victoria and Emily became a symbol of pain, justice, and the lengths one would go to for love and revenge.